Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast, hosted by yours truly, Scott Howell, and the incomparable Bradley Flowers. For agents, by agents, we're here to share real-life experiences, tips, and insights related to all aspects of both being an insurance agent and running a successful agency. So sit back, turn up the volume, and let's get down to business. Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. I am your fearless host and leader, Mr. Scott Howell of I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. Before we get started on today's podcast, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore, first-team Parade All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit, and he is single-handedly bringing the kindness revolution to the Mobile metropolitan area. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
Scott, I've never been more excited for an interview.
I love that so much. Guys, before we get started on today's podcast, I have two things to say. Number one, today is Bradley's birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. You know, this is actually, I don't know that you know this. We podcasted on my birthday a year ago.
Wow.
I did not know that. This is the second year in a row we podcasted on my birthday.
I did not know that. The second thing I want to mention today, guys, our mission on this podcast is to do anything that we can for you agents, you associate agents out there, the CSRs that are out there, anything that we can do to help you in your business, whether it's marketing, the future of the insurance business, accounting, sales, digital, hiring, firing, you name it. We want to help you with it. And we have just recorded, this is our 12th podcast in 2 days. We have broken the Guinness Book of World Records for the most podcast ever done in a 2-day period. I actually am so excited and fired up today and humbled to have our guest on that we have on. I actually spent the night here in Mobile last night instead of going back to Huntsville so that we could interview this guy today, and I am fired up about having him on the show. So before we get started, let me introduce, he is the Chief Marketing Officer at Bold Penguin, an insurtech company based out of Columbus, Ohio. He's also an international keynote speaker, an author, an industry thought leader. He's originally from Nassau, New York. He currently lives in Loudonville, New York. He is married to the beautiful Miss Lauren Murray. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the other incomparable Mr. Ryan Hanley. How are you, Ryan?
Well, you started with the sports intro, so I thought you were going to say Class C All-Star for the Division III University Rochester Yellow Jackets.
Well, and I could have gone there because I do know that you graduated with a degree in mathematics from the University of Rochester. I just decided I didn't want to pump you up too much this morning,
Scott.
Ryan. Yeah,
How did I ever get a degree in math? I have no idea.
I've had a team of private investigators following you. Actually, I brushed my teeth in your bathroom this morning, but you didn't
I was wondering why the toothbrush was already wet when I put it in my mouth.
Just to be fair, if he were actually in your bathroom, you would not miss him. He's about 6'6".
Ryan, insurance agents from around the world, for the 250,000 insurance agents listening to this podcast right now, our goal on this podcast is to give you great content every time you come on. I tell Bradley after every episode, I said, did we do something here in this episode that will help people understand or move the ball forward in their agency? And Ryan, having you on this podcast today because you're a thought leader and you are one of those people that I consider at the tip of the spear in terms of understanding where we are as an insurance industry and moving forward into the future. I've got so much to talk to you about today. I wish you could clear your schedule and you and I could just get in the boat together and spend about 8 hours today and just have adult conversations about insurance. But I know neither one of us can do that. So before we get started, take us in your DeLorean back in time, and you leave Rochester, the University of Rochester, with your degree. Tell us how you got in the insurance business, and then just kind of take us forward to today.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be on the show. It's great. I'm excited for this. So that all being said, we're in the DeLorean and we jump out. I basically almost failed out of college. I was a Division III baseball player, but really all I wanted to do was play baseball, chase women, and drink beer. And
you
it's
and
really
I
hard.
had the exact same goals in college, Ryan. Did we just become best friends?
Did you majored in eligibility?
Yes. Yeah. I limped into college with the hopes of being an engineer, and hit thermodynamics somewhere in the second year and said, there is no way that this is happening. So my guidance counselor, so when you're staring at like a 1.9,
right,
and you want to keep your scholarship, like you have to make some hard decisions, which actually weren't very hard. I basically walked into my guidance counselor's office at school and said, this isn't working. I need to figure out what other degree I can get that allows me to graduate on time. And the only other thing that was possible was math. So that's how I got out of there with math degree. The funny thing is you can't really do much with a math degree. Like there's not a lot of, like, I guess if you want to be like a rocket scientist or a professor, and I didn't really want to be any of those things. So I just limped around like office jobs for a while. I was in finance, I was in accounting, I worked for American Express, but I'm talking like I'm in the basement just like shuffling spreadsheets. Like these aren't these wasn't the glamorous parts of any of those companies. I wasn't making really any money, and somehow I was able to convince my now wife not to break up with me a bunch of times. And I think her father kind of saw the writing on the wall, and he did not want his little girl to be married to a bum. So this is like straight out of a mafia movie. It's Christmas time.
By the way, let me interrupt and say I love your brutal honesty. I love it so much.
Yeah. So this is like it's Christmas, 2005, I think. That sounds about right. And that doesn't really matter. We're living in New York City at the time. We're talking about moving back to Albany because unfortunately my wife's mother was sick at the time. And she kind of pulls me in this back room with these big high leather back chairs. Like this actually happened. Sits me down. His son-in-law, or my future brother-in-law, his son is sitting, kind of behind him, like standing. I'm telling you, this is like Scorsese.
You heard the theme from The Godfather playing in the background.
Yeah, the violin is slowly playing in the back. So and he like basically says, if you guys are gonna move home, I want you to come sell insurance for the Murray Group. So obviously I said yes, you know what I mean? You don't say no to that. So I said yes, and that's how I got in. And I started selling insurance in 2006. Boots on the ground. We're a generalist agency, about 15 people at the time, about probably $1.5 million, $2 million revenue. And a true generalist agency, about a 50-50, 60-40 split, personal commercial, and all the cliches happened. All the cold calling, the make the list of 200 names, all the stuff. It was
Power
crazy.
200.
Yeah, I found out super quick that I sucked at selling insurance.
What?
Terrible, horrible, awful. Like I'm coming home, I'm like driving home from work 6 months into this job, like almost in tears. I'm so bad. I'm like, how can I be this bad at this? Like it was awful because I hated the traditional sales stuff. Like,
right.
I'm just going to call you randomly out of the blue. You're just like going through your life and try to hawk insurance at you. Like, the funny thing is today I would have zero problem making that phone call. But at 25 or whatever,
you're picturing
I was at
Bill
the time,
Murray from Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah. The whole thing, just like, I'm disrupting their life and they're going to hate me. And I'm just every negative scenario in my mind, I couldn't get past it. And that's ultimately how I got into digital, was like, I'm about 1.5 years into this. Like, I'm coming home and my wife is like, you may have to start thinking about doing something else. Like, you are not performing. And that was causing her problems because, she worked at the agency too. And my brother-in-law and my father-in-law are like crushing sales. And I'm like, pushing like a
show.
Oh,
she's like, I married this guy.
Yeah, I married a bum.
You are not performing.
Yes. Oh my God. It was so bad. Like, you want to talk about just like ego crushing, like emasculation, like show up every day and have your brother-in-law and father-in-law like just killing accounts left and right. And you can't even put a...
And you walk by their office door and they're just leering at you when you walk by.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, I put a monoline renters and policy on the books today. Like, $18. It was awful. I can't even fill my gas tank, but yeah. So, dude, it was so bad. So that's what got me into digital to begin with, is like, I just... there's like a whole story behind it, which we don't have to go into, but like I had to find a way. I had to find a way to get this thing going. Like I had to. There was no other option. Like I'm borderline. My wife might divorce me because she's so ashamed of how low my production is, which I actually wouldn't have blamed her because my production was so low. I was in I'm mentally in like a super dark place. You know what I mean?
Like divorce yourself.
Yeah, I'm like, this sucks. Like, this is not for me. I'm not cut out for all the negative shit I'm telling myself. It was awful. So I kind of fall into this like event happens and I fall into digital and I just was like, I can do this. Like, I'm good. I enjoy teaching people things. I enjoy educating. I enjoy writing. Like, I have this weird creative side, which I kind of repressed as a kid because I thought I'd be broke if I was an artist or a writer. And so I never pursued it. So I was like, oh, I can write about this stuff. I can talk about it. And then the funny thing is people started responding and reaching out and saying, hey, I need this. Can you help me with this? And then, the long story short is about, that for over the next like 5.5, 6 years, whatever the timetable is, I became incredibly proficient at it, nerded out, like just, the day that I left.
Yeah. So when you say, well, let me just say this. So when you found your voice, okay, that's what we're talking about. We found our voice. What exactly were you blogging, vlogging, just getting on?
Yeah, blogging.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
I was blogging. And basically what I would do is, so at 1.5 years in the business, like you don't know shit about insurance. I was blogging about new coverages that I would learn. So if I would go on an appointment and someone would ask me about underinsured motorists and like I didn't have a good answer for them or a good way of explaining the coverage to them, I'd go back because at heart I'm like a super geek nerd. Even though I'm tall and handsome and incredibly charismatic, like really I'm just a nerd at heart, I understand. I'm sure that you can relate completely.
Absolutely.
So I would go back and like read policy forms. And like, there was a time when I could almost go verbatim on a professional lines, on a Travelers professional lines form, like their national professional program that they used to have. I could almost go verbatim on their policies because towards the end of my career, that was how I made all my money, is I just crushed professional lines. Like if I walked into an account, like it was mine, like I just had it. So I started reading these forms and I would take and dissect that information and turn it into real language that people could actually understand. And I just blog about it.
Right.
Nothing fancy, just, here's what underinsured motorist is and blah, blah, blah. Here's a scenario where it happens and here's what you should think about. And here's some recommendations for, maybe what you think if you're in this scenario, think about this. You never talk in guarantees or absolutes or you get yourself in trouble with E&O. That's really the one rule. But giving people some ideas of how to think. And I would just put that out there and I'd share it on social media. And again, this is like 2010. So 2009-ish. So social media wasn't as big as it is today, but that's how I started to attract attention. It was super slow at first, but over the course of that, I went from the day that I left, that month, we generated 89 opportunities on $100 budget, and we closed 62 of them.
Wow.
And Ryan went from zero to hero.
Yeah. Now, ultimately what happened, so just to finish this, get us to today, I just had kind of hit a ceiling there, right? I wanted to take the agency multi-state. I wanted to start to branch out. Like in my mind, I was like growth. And at the time I didn't understand where their head was at, but what my family was really interested in is like they were set up, like they had a great thing going.
Right.
Like they show up, they do great work. They have like a 94% retention rate. Like It's really an incredible agency. They're great salespeople. They're hard workers. And for them, considering that they now have like the agency's twice as big with the same number of people,
right,
everybody's doing great.
Right. So
like for them, there was no real intrinsic motivation to go pedal to the metal, the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah, their dream wasn't your dream.
You don't want to mess up a good thing.
Right.
Exactly. 100%. Like at the time, there was a little bit of like animosity, and I'm like, oh, I want to go faster, and they don't want to. I didn't understand it, but now kind of removed from the situation a little bit, I think they made the right decision, because the only thing really, because they didn't believe what I believed, the only thing that could have happened is I messed up what is a really good thing for the family.
Uh-huh.
So I'm happy today. I'm very happy the way that it worked out. Everything is great. Like I have a great relationship with everybody. So we're all good. At the time, it was kind of like, I was frustrated and stuff, but I was also, 30-year-old dick. So,
right.
yeah. So then I went to, I left there, created my own marketing agency for like 2 months. And then, Trusted Choice, kind of made me an offer, and I said, I got an opportunity to help agents with what I love doing, and, do it on a national level, kind of play this bigger game, be part of conversations that it would probably take me more time on my own to be a part of. So I did that and, built Agency Nation. That was a tremendous experience. Ran the Elevate conference for 2 years, got to write a ton. Last year on Agency Nation, we touched more than 500,000 unique insurance professionals in the industry with our content and messages. So amazing experience. And just kind of the same thing happened. Like, I love it. I wish them nothing but the best. I think it's an incredible resource for agents and for the industry, but it was just time for me to play another game.
Right.
And that was ultimately, I saw in Bold Penguin an opportunity to be part of something I think can be one thread in the fabric of what our industry looks like in the future. And
so let me get this straight. Ryan Hanley needed a new mountain to climb. Is that where we are?
I think so. Yeah. And not in a negative sense. It wasn't like Agency Nation or Trusted Choice did anything wrong. They didn't. I did that for 4 years. I built Agency Nation up to as big as I could get it without it becoming the rest of my life.
Right.
And I just was looking I wanted to keep helping agents. I just was looking for a new way to come at the problem.
Sure.
I looked at a lot of different companies. It wasn't an easy decision to leave. Agency Nation is my baby. There's literally no one in the world that cares more about Agency Nation than me. And it's in tremendous hands. Tremendous hands.
Oh, absolutely.
Joey and Sydney and Jen and Stacy. I mean, I knew the next crew was going to make it even better. Like crew meaning, them leading it. And so that made it easier as well.
And Joey's been stepping his game up a little bit. He's putting out some good stuff here recently.
Well, it's about time. I'm just kidding. No, it made it. The fact that Joey and Sydney were the ones who are kind of making it their own, that made it much easier, because if I was passing it off to someone who maybe was coming in fresh, I would feel like they wouldn't have the same respect for the mission, not for what we had done before, because what I told Sydney when I left was, you have to make this you. Like, you owe me nothing. You need to make this yours. And I said the same thing to Joey, like, you need to make this your version of Agency Nation. But what they have, and what makes me so happy, is they have a respect for the mission of Agency Nation. Mm-hmm. They just need to come at that problem from the way they want to come at it, and I know they will. So,
hey Ryan, our podcast is divided up about 50% independent, 50% captive agents. So, cool. for those agents out there that don't know what Agency Nation is, can you just give a real brief explanation of what that is?
Yeah, and just the first caveat I'll give to this is Agency Nation is a wide open publication, even though most of the time our work is focused on the problems that an independent agent faces.
Correct.
We had about 25 captive agents at Elevate this year. It's not exclusive to independents. It's just the nature of the market segment that we serve. But It is a digital publication focused on sales, marketing, technology, and has even moved into some of the operational issues that we're just trying to help agencies grow.
Gotcha.
How-tos, case studies, stories, interviews, thought leadership, kind of op-ed stuff, opinion stuff, all based around some of these ideas, if you put them into practice, are going to help you be more efficient, manage your business better, have happier people. Like whatever the thing is that you're struggling with, we most likely have created a piece of content to address that and every week they're coming out with more. So like I said, it's a free resource, agencynation.com.
And what a beautiful synergy between Agency Nation and our podcast. And for the low price of $2.7 million, I will get on the podcast every day and I will talk about Agency Nation. Yeah. I'm kidding, by the way. But it is a beautiful synergy, though. I don't know how we could work together, but I do see Agency Nation and the Insurance Guys podcast as being a symbiotic relationship, because we kind of do what they do. You know, we're trying to help agencies like they are. But so when did you leave Trusted Choice to join the Bold Penguin group?
I think my last day was August 1st, maybe somewhere around the beginning of August. To be honest with you, I can't remember. I think it was first week of August, second week of August, something like that.
Were the Trusted Choice people kind of prepared for this, or were they like, what?
I think there were the people that needed to be prepared knew what was going on.
Right.
I didn't want to make a big deal out of it because I didn't want people to think anything other than this was a natural progression in my own career, and that my goal for a long time now, even when I was still an agent, I want this industry to thrive. And I feel like in whatever ways I can make an impact, I would be remiss if I saw a place that I could continue to make an impact. And like I said, like I'm taking Agency Nation and now it's Sydney and Joey's. Like it's not missing a beat. It's still going to be amazing. So I don't really need to be there. Like I'm redundant there. Like it's time for them to make it better. Like me continuing to put my ideas in it are going to get stale eventually. So it was time for me to move on. I didn't want people to see it as anything other than the next phase in my own evolution. So I tried not to make a real big deal of it because it was not an indictment of anything that was going on at Agency Nation or Trusted Choice. I saw something in Bold Penguin and just needed a new challenge and wanted to make a move. And that's what it was. So I tried not to make a big, huge deal out of it.
Ryan, before we move on to Bold Penguin, because I am extremely interested in spending some time talking about Bold Penguin, I have one question for you. Are you ready for that question?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Are you happy?
Oh, yeah. Very, very happy. Okay. Very happy. All right. It's a lot of people, it's funny, a lot of people have asked me that. Look, I get to continue doing what I love to do, what you guys love to do, right? I'm a servant at heart. Like I want to, I write shit for free all the time.
Right.
Like I've had people say, you should have a membership site. You should have this. Like, why aren't you doing coursework? Like, why don't you do masterminds? I think masterminds are great. I think coursework is great. I think having a paid newsletter is a great idea. I just like giving it away for free because I want the most people to see it. Like I want, if someone misses it, who that piece of content could have helped because I'm charging $10 a month for you to see my content, I feel like that's a fail. Like I get paid other ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I run marketing departments and I speak. Right. And occasionally I'll do like a bigger kind of workshop for someone if they really want that and it's the right situation. That's how I make my money. Like I don't need to make $10 a month from people. Right. So I get to still do that work. And that's what really makes me happy, man. Like I'm just a creative dude at heart that, every little boy's dream, insurance marketer. You know what I mean? Like I'm living the dream, bro.
Did anybody, in the course of asking you if you're happy, did anybody ask you if you were wanted to be in a 1-bedroom apartment in Huntsville, Alabama, helping Scott Howell sell commercial insurance? Has anybody thrown that out there?
No one has thrown that out yet.
Well, let's talk. Let's talk about Bold Penguin. I tell you, I have spent about 30 minutes this morning looking at the Bold Penguin site. I am very interested from a selfish, I sell a lot of commercial insurance standpoint. I want to learn all I can about this to see if it's something that I want to do.
Yeah. So first,
sell Scott Howell.
Website is not
sell Scott Howell on Bold Penguin.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the 3-minute and 30-second version of Bold Penguin, which I literally just did an hour ago for Seth Zaremba. So let's see how well I can duplicate that.
Shout out, Seth.
He said it was the most epic thing he's ever heard in his life. So
wow.
And that's me kind of paraphrasing Seth. Right. Basically, here's Bold Penguin in a nutshell. The reason I made the move to Bold Penguin versus any of the other companies that I talk to is because Bold Penguin continues to put the human agent at the center of the interaction. I'm a firm believer, a believer to the 10th degree, that we need to have technology to ease the friction in our business, our business for the most part. For the agents that are still struggling today, or the agents that just aren't growing as fast as they want to, the problem is friction across the board. However, too many organizations are taking the approach of the human is the friction point, so we need to remove the human. That is the cardinal mistake. That is the sin of sins. That is the mistake that does not work. It looks, from a technologist standpoint who hasn't spent any time in our industry, it looks like the obvious solution, and that's why it's not the solution. The solution is we need to remove friction from all the processes around the human. So Bold Penguin is attacking two parts of that process, specifically on the commercial lines. So imagine a piece of paper, okay? You got that visual in your head? Mm-hmm. Hold it out flat with your hand on one end and your other hand on the other side, right? In your left hand is the customer. In your right hand is the agent. In between them, all that paper is the crap that you have to go through to get a quote for commercial lines, right? You got to fill out 42 questions. You might have to do that on a Accord form. You got to figure out what carriers are available. Then you have to send it out for quotes. God forbid it's anything other than a standard bot, because then it's going to take you 3 days to get a quote back, and all the other stuff. What if they tell you you're one thing and then you find out that they're not? What if they tell you you're one thing, you send the quote in, and the company tells you you're not, and now you waited 3 days that company can't actually write them? What if you don't have any markets? On and on and on and on and on. So what Bold Penguin has done, and what their mission is to take that customer and take that agent and bring the two ends of the paper together. Now, for you super geeks out there, that's warp speed. That's wormhole technology. You fold space. That's how you move faster than the speed of light.
We're talking about time travel now.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. So that is the visualization of the goal. Okay. The same is true with underwriting. So the other side of the operation, we're doing the same thing. Okay. That same visualization. So now I'll explain to you how we're actually doing that. There are two main pieces to the Bold Penguin business. The first is very relevant to the agent today. The second is going to be much more relevant to agencies in the future. It mostly applies to big call centers, but we're working on the technology to get it down to the Main Street agent. So I'll explain the first one first. The first side of our business that we're trying to fold space is our exchange. What I mean by an exchange is, if anyone has ever dealt in financial space, it's like a Bloomberg terminal. It's like the space where the trading of opportunities happens. So you, Scott, you could get, say you write restaurants but not bars, okay? Guy calls you, he says, I own a restaurant, I'd like to get a quote. You're like, that's great. Awesome, I'd love that. This is my day. Cool. And then you, through the underwriting process, the 37th question is, what percent of your revenue is alcohol? And he goes,
happens all the time, by the way.
65%, Scott. Right, and you're like, shit.
You're not a restaurant, you're a bar. Yeah.
You're a bar. And I'm sorry, man, but I don't really have a good market for bars, because bars are really tough to write, and I don't want to screw with my contingencies. And really, then I got to go to a wholesaler, and that's a whole nother process, and I got a tea time in an hour. So I'm not interested. What you can do with that opportunity is sell it into the Bold Penguin exchange, okay? So it's very easy. Any opportunities that you get, or other carriers get, brokers or agencies get, and non-related insurance entities that generate interest. So think large mortgage companies, loan companies, publications that generate consumer interest. They sell opportunities into the exchange. We also do some lead gen ourselves, but not a ton. So we have all these different organizations populating the exchange. About 40,000 opportunities a month go into the exchange, okay? When an opportunity goes into the exchange, we have a 35-person call center. Those call center people are working to get the consumers on the phone, okay? You just filled out a restaurant insurance quote application. I'd like to just ask you a few questions, and I can connect you with an agent. So then they walk through a dynamic script. You said you were a restaurant. Is that true? Yes. Well, instead of asking the alcohol question at 37, we pull it up into the first 8 questions, right, for a restaurant. So it's dynamically changing the script with each question that you answer. And as it's doing that, it's validating the information. So once we validated that the information is correct, we know what type of business they are, what size they are, how much revenue they have. We now know a good agency to match them with. And we've also, and this is the key from my perspective, we're also verifying the intent of the consumer. Because I don't want to send you somebody who's kicking the tires. I don't want to send you somebody who's 9 months out from their renewal date and was just bored and was kicking around some insurance quotes, right? So that person doesn't do you a lot of good. So we verify who they are, and then we validate their interest. And once we have that, our call center people, literally, it's a big, huge red button in the lower left corner. It lights up red. They tap that button, and it connects them with you, Scott. And she says, "Hi, Scott. I have Ryan on the phone. He owns a restaurant in the Huntsville, Alabama area or wherever. Would you like to take that call?" You're like, "Sure, I'd love that call." "Okay, here's Ryan." Click. And
so
now,
wait, let's stop right there. A couple things I want to ask. So what? Now go back and tell me, where did we get Ryan from? Did Ryan come from another agency that said Ryan called us and we can't help Ryan, so we're sending Ryan to Blue Penguin?
Bold Penguin.
I'm sorry, Bold Penguin. Excuse me.
That's okay. If this whole thing doesn't work out, we will be Blue Penguin, but I'm hoping we are Bold Penguin. So there's a bunch of different ways. So a good example may be, let's say one of our clients is Gallagher. Okay, one of our clients is Gallagher. Let's say that person called let's say Ryan, me, the restaurant owner. I called Gallagher because I saw some ad they had, and they just don't write restaurants in Alabama. They just don't. I'm not saying they don't, but let's say they don't.
Right.
Okay. So they have a restaurant program. I call, but they don't have a program in Alabama. So the way our integration works with a company like that is I call in, the person on the phone goes, "Sorry, we don't write them, but I'm going to send you to someone who can. Just hold on." They forward the call, and it goes right into our call center, and one of our people pick it up, and he goes, "Hi, I just want to validate some information, and then I'm going to get you with an agent who can close that deal for you." Or, not close the deal. I'm talking agent language, not consumer language. But who can help you with your restaurant insurance. And then that's how it gets passed. That's one scenario. They could fill out a form. They could call in. They could be put into the exchange by another agency. We have carriers that put opportunities into the exchange. And we have non-related, non-insurance entities. So publications, digital publications, we're working on. We have actually two large business supply companies that I don't want to mention by name, but you would know them, that have small business departments. And we're working with them to say, hey, if one of your customers comes in and is looking for business supplies, there may be an opportunity. They may also have an insurance need. And if they do, we would like to send that out through our agent network to get them service. So we're constantly looking for those opportunities. And when new agents come onto our platform, even if you only put 5 in a month and take out 20, it's all good. It's about making sure that if someone calls you, if you connect with somebody, you have a way to, one, monetize it. So the check might not be huge, probably get $20-$30 back for each account that you sell in, but you're still helping them, which is the key, right? Like I called Scott wasn't able to help me, but he got me to somebody who could. That's a huge value. That's a huge value win for you.
Absolutely.
And that's what that's what the exchange's purpose is.
So let me ask you this question. So Scott Howell doesn't care. I'm a commercial guy. My agency writes predominantly commercial insurance. I will write a freaking pipe bomb manufacturing plan if somebody wants to send me the business.
Yep.
But why wouldn't Bold Penguin partner with a company like a State Farm where their agency force is writing 99% of their business is home and auto business, but they probably 2, 3 times, 4 times a week in a lot of agencies with State Farm have a kind of a commercial, a commercial guy, somebody that owns a business, call and say, "Hey, you're my State Farm agent. Can you write my commercial insurance?"
Do you know somebody at State Farm? Because if you do, I would love to go talk to them.
The president of State Farm listens to this podcast. If he's listening today, I would like for him to get his vice presidents of management together this afternoon and make an offer to Bold Penguin to partner on providing them, the people that are calling to ask for commercial quotes. And you can call any State Farm in the country and they'll say, "Yeah, we have people call over here for commercial insurance all the time. We have to refer them to somebody else."
Any captive.
Yeah.
Well, not any captive, but a lot of captives.
Yeah. So that scenario is exactly the type of situation that, and we actually already do this. So to give your president of State Farm some peace of mind that he's not working with a startup that's and a really good marketing guy who's actually selling vaporware, one of the largest writers of commercial auto in the world is our customer, and we're doing exactly that for them right now.
That's awesome.
But, and I've got so many other questions because we haven't even gotten into the second
Dude,
part of this.
Fire away, man. Fire away.
So how do, and maybe this is a question that I need to ask at the end. Why don't we do that? I'll ask this question at the end, but the question will be, how do agents sign up for Bowl Penguin if they want to? But we'll get to that at the very end. Let's keep going. What's the other side of Bowl Penguin that we haven't talked about?
Yes. Okay. So recap: exchange, sell in, buy out. You pay a monthly fee to have the terminal. You then, any that you buy out of Bold Penguin, you pay a fairly low rate, $30 to $50 per account. But remember, they're validated and they're warm and they're live on the phone. And the other piece of that side is you can use the tool for your own stuff too. Right. So it's not like you can only use the stuff that you buy through Bold Penguin. We have a lot of agents that they just have the Bold Penguin terminal up all day long. And if a commercial account comes in because they walked in or they just called your phone directly, they just fire up our platform, because the underwriting side of our business is where the game changes a little bit. So the underwriting side of our business is where the agent is going to make their hay. So there's a lot of companies that do live phone call transfers. Not as many are sophisticated or as smart as we are. Let's put it that way.
Love it.
Here's the difference. So you get that live phone call transfer and you're staring at your Bold Penguin terminal, which is just a tab. I mean, I don't want the word terminal to be overblown. It's just a tab open on your web browser. All that person's information is piped into your terminal, and so are rates, commercial lines rates for close, I think 70 lines of business from 6 different carriers. We then have another 10 carriers that will show appetite, and you can click and it will pipe the information into their quoting system. So you could get a rate, a quote to bind, click this button and it's bound rate.
So it's an aggregator.
Not necessarily an aggregator, because an aggregator, see, the aggregator model is a little different. We're not pooling contingencies. You're not writing through us, right? You're writing on your own direct appointment.
Gotcha.
So your appointment.
So you need to be appointed with these carriers.
You don't have to be. You can. We do have a wholesale agreement with some of them if you're not, but you're writing your own direct appointments first. Gotcha. So let's say you're appointed with Hiscox and Liberty, but you're not appointed with HomeSite.
Right.
And for this account, HomeSite is $500 less, and you just think it makes sense, right? So you go with HomeSite. That goes through our wholesale agreement until you get a direct appointment, and then you can just use that. But it's what we're saying. We're not forcing you to use our wholesale agreement to get to the markets.
Right.
If you have the markets, rock and roll. That's not the point. The point is we just want to give access to all the companies that we have direct rating, quote to bind behind the scenes.
Right.
Couple other important points here. It's not a comparative rating tool in the sense that we're just comparing on price. So part of the system is you have to give disposition information back to us. You have to. In order to rank in our algorithm as the best agent for that account, we have to know that you have the markets, that you're available, that you do a good job, that you close the business. So let's say you tell me, Scott, that you're a restaurant guy, you crush restaurants, but I've sent you 5 restaurants and you haven't closed one of them. Now we got a problem. Now it doesn't mean that you can't have that reset or something may actually be wrong. We have a full customer service team that works with you and onboards you and all that kind of stuff too. But we want to the point here is the customer experience. The agent experience comes slightly second, right? So we want that customer to have the best experience working with you, because then they'll stick. And if you're not closing the business, that says something about your ability to write restaurants, not about anything else.
Right.
Just about restaurants. And again, it's a work in progress. I think there's 5 or 6 factors that go in today. And so as you give us disposition information, we're using that to help rank you as potentially the best option for that customer. So it's not a comparison rating tool, because a comparative rating tool is just, here's the lowest price, you should use this
Right.
one. We actually, in our algorithm, it shows carrier X may be cheaper, but actually it's only cheaper because they offer 500,000 single limit, or 500,000 per incident,
Right.
$1 million aggregate, and not 1 million, 2 million.
Right.
So we're actually letting you know that. So yes, this may be cheaper, but it's not the same coverage. And then you as the agent, you're making that decision and still placing that business based on your experience, based on what you hear and see from the customer and all that kind of stuff. So we want to keep the trusted advisor status, right? That is the part that retains the business. You're building trust, respect, loyalty. You have to be having a human interaction, talking on the phone to that person. That's where that happens. So you then are still making the same decisions. This is not just pick the lowest and go.
Right.
And so we're giving all the information, and we're still letting. And the thing is, if they don't retain the business, because we're now in we're going to be starting year 2 of the system being live in a couple months. We're going to start getting retention data over time as well. We just don't have the data points yet because we haven't been live long enough. Mm-hmm. But as we start to retain retention data, we'll start to know and be able to tell you, hey, we'll know this agent actually retains that business for 2 years longer, for X number of years longer, as the company evolves. That's where we're going.
So if the guy with the restaurant goes through the Bowl Penguin system and comes into my agency, is that lead, we'll call it a lead for right now, would that lead be sent out to multiple agents or just one?
No. We don't do the multiple sends.
Right.
And we also don't do any remarketing after we've connected it to you. It's your data.
Okay.
Once you have that person, it's yours.
That's why it's important that you close it.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, exactly. Because our game is not blasted out to 50 agents to make revenue. That's not the game. The game is get that agent to close the business so that consumer has a good, positive experience and stays with them. That's the win. The win is they never come back to Bold Penguin, the consumer. You know what I mean? Like whatever the average is for the commercial lines business, what is it, like 3 to 5 years average retention? Like that, we want that and then eventually more, because the system is routing. And this is the second part, right? So we've still been talking about the first part with underwriting. The second part of this is for agencies. We want you to be able to route the business not just to your agency, but to the right producer in your agency.
Right.
Ryan, that is a game-changing piece of technology.
No doubt.
Yeah. So that is what we're doing for, say, we have 3 of the top 100 are our clients, and we want to have more, and we want to do this for Main Street agents. This is a ubiquitous tool. What we want to be able to
do you take this do you take this technology after you dial in the commercial side of it, and then go flip the switch to go to the home and auto side of it as well?
Yeah, we've talked about it. It's not a priority today because there are already a lot of tools that do a good job in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. Right. The reason we would go to personal lines eventually is so that you just have one platform that you open up.
So who do you feel like does the best job in terms of tools on the home and auto side in the business? And you may not want to talk about that. If you don't, we can edit that out.
It's not that I'll say I don't have any problem talking about it. I'll just say that I don't necessarily know that I'm the best person to ask about that question.
I get
because that. Yeah. Personal lines comparative rating to me is Laird's company. ITC has a pretty good tool. Mm-hmm. Like my wife's company uses Vertifor's tool. I don't know anybody that is in love with their tool, but I think all of them do a pretty good job. I think you just have to find one that fits for you. I'm just not an expert in personal lines comparative rating, so I don't want to say that I one or the other.
I got you. So if an agent wants to discuss in more detail and get more information about Bold Penguin, tell our audience where they can go and talk, find out more information.
Yeah, so you can just go to boldpenguin.com and you'll see right at the top of the home screen, there'll be a sign up. That signs you up for a weekly, or I think we do it every other week, demo. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be having a lot more. The website needs a lot of work. So please don't judge the company today on the website. We're going to be putting a lot more material out. I mean, that's a big part of the reason why I'm here, is to help build out this story and help do the onboarding and stuff. The other thing you can do is just reach out to me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the best place. So just go to LinkedIn, type in Ryan Hanley, and just either connect with me or send me a message or whatever. I'm happy to talk to anybody that's interested in learning more about the tool and getting them indoctrinated to it. Like I said, the goal, not to be an agent. This is the reasons why I was excited about this. One, the entire tool is focused on the agent, right? Whether you're a big broker, a carrier who's got a call center and you want to send opportunities into your call center, or you're a Main Street agent and you just want to get more commercial lines opportunities in, or maybe you have a couple, a really, really good use case for this is you're an agency early in your acquisition phase. So you're starting to acquire a couple different locations. It is hard as shit to manage all these locations, especially early. Mm-hmm. Well, here's a way that you can actually distribute opportunities out to these acquired agencies and make sure that they're continuing to grow and that their funnel is full and that they have a place to rate business through on the commercial line side. And you can watch all of it happen and have from the corporate level, have an idea of what's going on, who's placing what, what's getting closed and all that kind of stuff. So right. There's use cases of this. Internally, we call it like a triage tool. You know what I mean? Because the opportunities are being routed in a smart way to the right agent, at the right moment, and the opportunities that your agency is not interested in are being sent at the exchange, and you're getting paid for those. Like, I don't know that I love the word triage, but everyone seems to immediately understand what I'm talking about. So I'm debating that language. But yeah, so
the word triage, is that what you said?
Yeah. I don't know. It has a weird connotation, but when I say that, they're like, "Oh yeah, I get that." So maybe I'm fighting something that doesn't need to be fought.
Well,
so.
I'm just excited that I could bring the power of the State Farm brand with Mr. Michael Tipsword, who's the president of State Farm, with Bold Penguin to create something that has never before been seen in the insurance industry, where a win-win dynamic for both organizations. I'm excited about that, and I cannot wait to get my check from both groups for bringing the two of you together. It's an exciting time to be in Scott Howell's life right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if we make that deal happen, Michael and I would be happy to take you out to the finest barbecue joint,
burger joint in Huntsville.
Yeah.
He likes Noble South.
Scott, for all your hard work, we're going to take you to Lawler's Barbecue in Huntsville, Alabama for lunch. Hey, let's talk a little bit. Ryan, I had some other things I want to talk to you about. Yeah. Agents, you need to check this out. This is a game changer in the business, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about stuff that's, I want agents to listen to this and be like, holy shit, what?
One of my goals with every episode is for everybody to learn something that they didn't know.
They just did. Yeah. Boom. That just happened. Ryan, I want to talk to you a little bit before we let you go today. I want to talk a little bit about, I want you to talk to me a little bit about the future of the insurance business. I think that your organization at Bold Penguin is part of that future. And as we talk about the future of PNC, and I ask a lot of guests that are on our podcast this question, and I get varied answers, but where do you see the industry going in the next 3, 5, and 10-year periods?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that I could go with that. I started or said earlier that I think one of the biggest mistakes technologists in our space are making, and even some carriers who are having some tough discussions, which I understand, is that they're looking for ways to bypass the human agent.
Right.
I firmly believe that for at least inside of the next 7 years, 10 years, at least, that is a big, big mistake to try to make that today, to try to make that move. Mm-hmm. I think you spend a lot of time and energy and resources and money building out solutions that the marketplace is not ready yet and not actually asking for. Right. Consumers aren't asking for you to remove humans from the process. They just want the process to be easy.
They just want it to be easier, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a big mistake. That being said, how do you actually make that happen? How do you keep humans at the center of the insurance process but make it easier? Mm-hmm. You have to be connected. Oh my gosh. It's like this is the part that's making me crazy. Is like I'm going to use a term that you may or may not know. You guys probably know, but maybe not everyone listening to. You may have heard it. The term API,
yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
APIs, in a nutshell, 30,000-foot view. The coders out there that are listening to this, please don't jump down my throat. It's basically the computer language which allows two systems to send and receive data. That's what it is.
They talk to each other.
Talk to each other. I have my system. It's in the language and coded, and words mean certain things the way I built it, my system. There's this other system over here, which has data that could help me. But it's slightly different. It's in the way they built it. What an API does is allow these two systems to talk to each other. And when you hear the term open API, what it means is you've created a universal language that will let any system connect to you. Now, the way that this is being done today, most often, is through web services, through web calls and XML. So what XML is, I can only connect, that the Hanley information group can only connect to the Scott information group. That's it. So my XML talks to your XML, and we only connect. Just these two organizations. No one else can connect, just the two of us. And if you change anything on your side, the whole thing gets effed up.
Right.
That is like 1980s technology, and we're still working on it. This is the whole like upload download thing.
Right.
Like APIs make upload download irrelevant, completely irrelevant. So I had an executive in a carrier the other day ask, we've had a lot of agents ask for an open API. What does that mean? Why is it important? It's speed to market. It's speed to bind. And here's the most important part. It's taking the data you have and putting it to work, not just for your agency force, but for your claims people, for your underwriters, for all your technology partners. It's being able to add additional sources of data into your system. Now, a lot of them do it today, but they do it by buying a big web sheet and uploading it, and it's not real time.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is, you don't have to understand all those pieces, but the idea of open connectivity between systems, we have these type of API calls, the ability to produce rates. The only way we're able to do that with the carriers we have is we've connected those carriers, but they're the carriers that traditionally are out front on these things, right? So the Hiscoxes and the Liberties and the home sites, it's like all my mutual friends and all my large national friends, like, guys, like, this is the moment that you're either going to open up your systems and start putting your data to work, or you're going to get left behind. That's the great disruptor in my mind. It's not autonomous cars. It's not chatbots. It's not AI. It's certainly not blockchain. Those things are not true disruptors. They're just going to innovate, and the industry will continue on.
Yep.
The API economy, the API ecosystem, creating this open exchange of data. Now, granted, you still have to make business decisions whether you want to send the data to somebody else. That's a business decision. I'm talking about simply having the ability to do it. The companies that make that decision early, that start connecting and sharing data, they are going to leap ahead of everyone else. And I think this is where I see things going, is that's going to be the true disruption. The companies that continue to be laggards, that continue to say, we're not really ready, that's not who our agents are. Nope, you're going to get left behind. Because if it takes 3 days for you to get me a quote, I mean, literally, in less than 24 months, if you're still taking 3 days to produce a commercial lines quote on anything mid-market or below, you're toast. Agents aren't going to send you business. They're just not going to send you business because, one, your pricing can't be as competitive because you're doing manual labor to get that rate put together. So I don't care how good your underwriting is, like the companies that are fast are going to win. Now, so I've been talking about this idea of like fast, and slow. So when we're connected, what it allows us to do is be very fast in the moments that don't matter, right? The time it takes to produce a rate, that should be very, very fast. The time it takes for that agent to explain that rate and the coverage behind it to the consumer should be slow.
Yeah, but doesn't part of that equation that you're talking about right now also have something to do with the level of complexity of the case itself on the commercial side?
I mean, I think that's an excuse that a lot of people like to use.
Because you're right. Like, for instance, nationwide insurance, if you're quoting just a general liability policy for a painter, you put that in the system, you hit a button, and it pretty much instantly gives you not only a rate, but you can bind that coverage. But if I'm talking to the gateway companies out of Florence, Alabama, and they've got 473 properties located all over the southeastern United States, for a habitational
I would classify
account,
that as upper mid-market and above.
Yes, but isn't there a little bit of
there's gray area in everything.
Right.
So for sure, you have 473 properties. You should probably take some time with that.
Sure.
Like that makes sense.
Sure.
You have a property.
Right.
There's no reason for that to take the same amount of time.
Exactly. That should blow through in 30 seconds. You should have a quote for somebody.
And it should be on someone's fingertips, right? Bam.
Right.
Like when is it is not difficult to take, like you could literally take, and I'm gonna go back to Bull Penguin for a second. You could literally take the mobile version of our application and be sitting in the guy's business.
Right.
You don't have to be sitting at your computer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a web app. Mm-hmm. You're sitting in this thing and you're looking at your phone and you're like, hey, Tim, like, this has been a great conversation. I just want to let you know, like, I'm looking at my system right now. Like, I can bind this policy for you right now while we're sitting here for $1,700. How does that sound?
Right.
That sounds great, Ryan. Boop. You're good, bro.
Right.
Rock and roll.
Right.
Let's go play some golf. Like there's no reason that can't happen unless your system, unless you're still clunky as hell,
mm-hmm.
and you're telling me that you can't create a system that connects. Now, granted, I know there's legacy technology. I'm talking in hyperbole a little.
Right.
Like, I know that this takes a little bit of time, but guys, if a company were to say, this is a project we appreciate, this is a project we think has value, here's the deal. Bull Penguin builds API, software as a service. We can have an API, a universal API that you can connect with us, or don't connect with us, connect with 10 other systems. We can build you an API in 3 to 6 months, and you don't even have to use us. So if we can build it in 3 to 6 months, you can build it yourself in 3 to 6 months, or someone else can.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this 3 to 6 months, and you now are good. Now you're just making business decisions. It'll be a tough 3 to 6 months. Like, there's work. It's going to have a cost. I mean, obviously, it's not cheap. I mean, it's tough work. But, like, that small investment, now you can make real business decisions. Do we want to use this piece of data? Yes. Boom, let's connect with them. Do we want to put that data in the hands of our agents in real time? No. Okay, so we're not going to do it. Like, those are business decisions.
Right.
But you can't even make those decisions unless you're connected. Yeah. And I think, just to kind of end my rant here, I so firmly believe that this is what's going to happen.
Ryan, this is the best answer Scott's ever gotten to that question. So,
yes.
Yeah. So I believe that this idea of connectivity, and maybe it isn't, maybe some new thing comes out and it's not even APIs. Don't worry about the word API. Worry about connectivity, open connectivity. This idea is going to, the people who grab onto this early and start to build the networks and start to build the frameworks with information providers and distribute that information out to their workforce, right? In real time, boom, right at your fingertips. Like, the people who do that, they are going to set themselves so far apart from the people that don't, that's where the disruption is going to happen. That's when carriers are looking around going, oh my God, we're in trouble. People aren't submitting business to us anymore.
Right. Part of speed to market is the actual component of how fast data can come into and out of your smartphone, your desktop, your laptop. Correct? Right?
Yeah.
You gotta have the download and the upload speed. Did you see Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan podcast 2 weeks ago? Did you happen to watch that?
I didn't watch it. I listened to it.
You heard about it like everybody else in the world, right?
So basically, in the middle of that podcast, Joe asks him a question, and he goes, well, we're about 2 to 4 months away from announcing that we have developed something, he didn't get into details, that is going to take what we currently have in the form of a small stream of being able to upload and download data off of your 4G LTE or whatever your wireless connection is, and turn it into a raging river.
Yeah.
Now, there was a lot of things he said on that podcast that blew my mind.
Or didn't make sense.
Or did not make sense. But that, to me, was a head turner. I was like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
Because I don't know that any of us can even wrap.
Scott texted me the YouTube link and said, stop what you're doing. Right
doing
now.
And go watch this.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he said, I was blown away by. But, when you talk about speed to market, API, getting, companies being able to talk, hell, these little OBD agencies like mine, sometimes we don't even have the damn upload and download speed on the internet. Or let's say you're an older agent and you've got your desktop sitting in your office from 2003 and that, it's barely running right now. Part of that's kind of what we're talking about too, in terms of ease of doing business, right? I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, here's the thing: if you're a 7-year-old agent and you're banging away on your desktop, you probably don't need any of this crap.
Right?
Like, don't even just find, listen, and it's great. I'm glad you're engaged. I hope that if you have younger people in your office, you empower them. But like, this is irrelevant to you. Like, just keep cranking. Do what you've always done. Like, you don't need to change. Like, I'm not saying the stuff that I talk about is for people who are looking to grow fast and potentially grow big.
Right.
Because you don't need to do this stuff if you're happy. Like my wife's agency runs a tremendous shop. 94% retention rate. They've now moved to about 80% personal lines. They're doing $3.5 million with 12 people. They're doing great. They grow consistently without fail, unconsciously 7 to 12% every year on a primarily personal lines book because they've built incredible relationships in the market and they just crank and their service is out of this world. So they don't need to do this stuff. They do just fine. They're great. They're set. Like, I'm not saying everybody needs to do this. I'm saying the guy or the woman who's sitting there going, I want more. I want to be part of this thing. I want to get bigger. I want to do better. Like, that's why you make these changes. Like, you want to be leading, you want to be growing, that kind of stuff. Like, that's why you engage in this. Like, if you're good, if you're making $500,000, if you're taking down $500,000 and your spouse has got a Land Rover and you got a country club membership and a house someplace fun, either north for you guys or south for me, like, what the fuck? Like, don't worry about it. Like, it's all life is good, man.
Something else I find I wanted to ask you about today, just as an insurance thought leader. So for 30 years, Warren Buffett has done everything in his power to turn insurance into a commodity through Geico, and he loves to brag about Geico in his annual report every year. I travel all over the United States, and about the last 3 or 4 months, it seems like everywhere I go, I pull into a gas station, and lo and behold, there's the local Geico office in the city or town that I'm visiting. I went to Nashville last week, pulled into a BP or a Chevron station, and right next door is a huge Geico sign, local Geico office. Yeah. So has he flipped the script on everybody? Did he?
Well, they can't retain their business. They can't figure out retention, bro. They can't figure out retention.
Let me tell you what I texted Bradley about this, and I'm sure in his mind he was like, "What in the hell?" I was like, "Somehow, some way, Warren Buffett has managed to Jedi mind everybody." And all these companies are turning their backs on their agencies, and Warren's like, well, now it's time to go to the old local agency force. And I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Dude, see, if everyone would just listen to every word that I said, everything would be just fine. No, I'm kidding. It has never not been about the human. I've been saying this for the day I got into insurance. It is always about the human. The only way to retain the business is human, because humans buy from other humans that they know, like, and trust. And the only way to build trust is to have a human connection. Now, yes, do I trust Amazon to give me my package? Yes, I trust them to give me my package. Do I trust Amazon's computer to make sure that if I have the worst day of my life, my house burns down, that I'm going to get paid back? Maybe if there's a one-line contract that says anything that happens, I'm going to give you full replacement costs. But then they got to define that, and they got to define all the other, and then you get into an actual insurance conference or contract, which is the thing that I think, I don't know if you guys follow Lemonade, but Lemonade has this like open policy, like policy 2.0. And the problem is and here's the, I'm rooting for Lemonade. People may think that's crazy. I am. Today they have half a business.
I love the technology.
Yes, they have one of the slickest, smartest acquisition strategies that has ever been invented. It's incredible. It's incredible. I wish that their CEO didn't say such ridiculous, blasphemous things about independent agents. or I would be more of a fan, because he seems like kind of like not super nice. But the technology.
I want him on the podcast. By the way,
I've thought about that, but it scares me.
No, don't be scared. Don't be scared.
No, that'd be awesome.
We can have an adult conversation, and if he can't have an adult conversation, I'll hang the phone up on him.
And I'm sure he's fine. He seems actually like he's probably a nice guy. He's doing his job.
Right.
He has to position his tool against the human agent today. Now, I think that's a mistake, because I think what his tool is missing, and if I worked for him or he paid me to consult, what I would tell him is, bro, you have the tool, like you have the game-changing tool. All you need is a human force behind it. So just to put that little bit of trust that the consumer still needs, just that little bit. Bam! Hey, I'm John. I'm your agent. If you ever have a problem, you can call me back.
Right.
I have a whole team here that can help you, but I'm your guy.
Right.
So Maya helped you out. She got you your policy. I just want you to know I double checked it. It's all good. It's all good. And if you ever have a problem, you call me. And if I'm not available, I got a whole team here that can help you too. But we're here for you. My name's John. I'm a licensed agent. Blah blah blah. That. I'd never leave Lemonade. I'm like, John's my guy.
Or let's
never leave them.
Or let's say they want to write it through their app and through their software, and then push that to an agent, and then maybe pay that agent a small fee. But then the agent has that client and can multi-line and things like that.
Yeah, I think Lemonade's going to have some struggles with the policy 2.0, because if you read the language, it doesn't actually work in a court of law based on current case law, and all, as you guys know, like all insurance precedent is based on the prior cases. So until that type of wide open language is adjudicated and there's actually a decision that shows that it is advantageous for the company or the consumer, because today you don't know the way that I know that policy isn't enforced. They're still working on it, but like the way you look at it today, it could go either way, and the wrong entity could win very easily based on the way it's written, and that's not the purpose of the policy. So that policy could actually, because they have no control over the judge, the policy they think that they're writing today to better support the customer could actually backfire and cause more problems for their customers. It's just,
and you're
it's
talking about worst case scenario. I mean, and it can all it takes is one time for that to happen.
So Ryan, I want to ask another question. So do you think a lot of the reason that these companies are, and I hate to say this term, but kind of turning their back on the agency force and trying to figure out desperately to reduce expenses through not having to pay commissions, right? Do you think a lot of them kind of look at the USAA model of how they do business with military members, and they see that as kind of the beacon of, USAA does it, they do it, and they don't have agents. Do you feel like a lot of them look at that and kind of see that as the model of what they want to be?
So there's a couple pieces here. First, I will push back on the fact that carriers are turning their back on agents. I don't think that's actually what's happening.
Okay.
I think that carriers are being smart, and they're having discussions around the fact that agents don't perform as well as they used to.
Right.
So agents have to own that fact. I've said a million times, I believe support, and everything that I do is in support of the human agent and the agents in general. But we have to put our head up and be a little self-aware. We can't let our ego drive every thought that we have.
Right.
We are not performing as a broad sweeping stroke. There are agencies, and many, many, many agencies that are doing amazing, innovative work. I mentioned Seth Zaremba's name. He's the case study on that, right? And there's tons of Seth Zarembas. The issue is as a broad stroke, it would be silly for carriers not to at least start to have these conversations. Now, I think because it's not in their sweet spot, some of them have gone about it the wrong way, and because many of our IA carriers never needed to have good quality PR, I feel like they've handled these situations poorly. But that's more of a PR issue.
Right.
They would be silly not to have these conversations. That being said, so I think it's okay. I don't think they're turning their back. I mean, I talk to carriers almost every single day.
Yeah, and that was probably the wrong. So that I will own that. That was probably the wrong thing to say.
I'm glad you brought up that word. I'm glad you brought it up, because you are not the only one that's saying that. And Grant, maybe that was maybe it was a step too far, and even you would say that. But I just still we're all on the same page. I for whatever it's worth to anyone listening, I do not believe that they are. I believe they're having what is a prudent business conversation, which is, what if agents continue to cede business to the directs and captives from an independent standpoint? And from a captive standpoint, what if we continue to cede business to the, to the independents and the directs, right? So everyone's having this conversation. So they're thinking of other ways to capture business. Now, some carriers are doing what I think is a really interesting model, which is, and I've talked to a couple of the mutuals in Ohio about this recently, is they're starting to do some of their own lead gen to their call center, closing the business and then distributing that business out to their agency force to be serviced. Now, there's things that come with that. There's things they have to work through. All of them are just real early betas. I think that's a really interesting model. The issue here, my friend, is carriers, specifically, like a State Farm doesn't have to worry about this. They have a tremendous brand, right?
Correct.
Their entire business is built on their brand. The entire reason Trusted Choice exists is because State Farm has a tremendous brand. So the idea here is that the carriers who have for a long time depended on their independent agent or their captive agent force to be their marketing arm have to step out front and start to own their brand, because agencies as individual voices have a conflict of interest between marketing a carrier's brand and their own agency brand. And that is a conflict that the agent can't get past. The agent would be silly not to market his own agency brand or her own. You have to. It's their business. So the carrier, instead of saying our marketing is the commissions we pay, nope, that's not the world we live in anymore. That's not the world we live in. So I'm not talking about cutting commissions. I'm saying you got to figure out how to be profitable and push your brand out into the marketplace. I think digital makes that a lot cheaper. I've talked to some carriers, but let's say pie in the sky, I'm at the top of a carrier. One of the things I would do tomorrow is start to build out an in-house creative agency. I think if The Rock can have a creative agency that he owns, that he's the only client of, a carrier can have a creative agency that they're the only client of. Like, these are the types of things that we have to think about in a digital world where your brand matters so much. You can't rely on agencies to be your brand marketing arm anymore. There's always been a conflict of interest in that. And furthermore, it's not in the agency's best interest to market your brand. It's in their best interest to market their own brand.
Bradley says that about once a week, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So like, you want to talk about the USAA model. Well, USAA is, you can't duplicate USAA. USAA, nobody's heartstrings are pulled for anything like they are for the military, and rightly so. And they have this. They've done an incredible job, one of the most admirable jobs that exists in our space of being the brand for the military and their families. And they didn't just stop there. They've created all these supporting services, and they invest so much into the program. I mean,
they picked their niche and they went with it.
Yeah.
You can't recreate that. Yeah. You can't recreate that. So don't even try. But what you can do is own your brand in the marketplace. So here's the downstream benefit to your agents. For the agents who are listening, like, screw that, that's just their way of going direct. Nope. It reduces the double sale. So when you're an agent, right, think about every you just sold that person on yourself, right? Hey, I'm your trusted advisor. Okay, I believe you. Then you push across this piece of paper and they're like, who the heck is East Northern, Southern Mutual of Farmers Mutual? You're like, what? You don't know this obscure mutual brand from Southwestern Alabama? Of course they don't know. They've never even heard of it. They didn't even know they existed. Right. Now you have to then sell them on that company. And that's a whole nother sale. So what I'm saying is, if that carrier's brand is out into the marketplace, then when you push that piece, they're like, oh, I've heard of Southwestern Alabama Mutual. Great. I'm so happy you're putting me with them. They seem like a great company. Perfect.
So Ryan, you mentioned branding from an agent, branding, marketing standpoint. What's the biggest mistake you think individual agencies and agents are making?
Great question.
You mean you're working under the assumption that they actually think about their brand?
Yeah, the ones who think about it. Okay. What's the biggest mistake they're making?
Obviously don't follow Bradley Flowers on Facebook and Instagram.
The biggest mistake they're making is they're not thinking about it. But the ones who are thinking about it, what's the biggest mistake you think they're making? Big question.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. What's the biggest mistake? I I don't know if this is their biggest mistake, but maybe I'll list a couple that I see fairly often.
Right.
Too corporate, too buttoned up, too stock photo-y. I'm a huge proponent of stock photos, mostly because I think they're amazingly ridiculous. Like I got this one of these 4 dudes jumping in the air in front of a green screen, and they all have different colored like Zorro costumes on. That is amazing stock photography. I mean, somebody woke up in the morning and they're like, "What are you going to do today, John?" He's like, "I'm going to jump up in the air like I just won the lottery, and I'm going to have a green Zorro mask on in front of a green screen."
Ryan, did you happen to see my goat video last week, by the way?
No, I didn't.
You really need to go to Instagram and check that out.
I will. I'll check it out. Yeah. So but I guess my point is like your brand, if you're Gallagher, right? If you're a big, you want your brand to be about, we're steadfast and we're the, big and we have the reach. Like that's what you want your brand to be. So it makes more sense that they, most of their stuff would be more, I'm going to do quotes, but like more like of the corporate professional-ish variety. And they actually have a really good recruiting Instagram account. If you go check it out, that's a little more casual.
Right.
But that's not most agencies, right? So like if I'm in Huntsville or Mobile and I have a single location agency, 15 people thinking about my brand, well, what's important to us? Like what makes us who we are? Is it that it's a family agency and it really, it's about, we're all one big happy family and that's cool. That's actually the way the Murray Group operates. That they have a slogan, "Our brand is family." Maybe you have a specific niche. Like we've brought up restaurants. You're the restaurant guy. So then your brand, everything you talk about should relate to food and health and eating and barbecues and everything else that goes into those people.
Yeah.
So your brand should speak to the type of customer that you want to attract, right? Like if you're like, "I love restaurants," but you don't ever talk about food, how would anyone ever know that you love restaurants? You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. It's like just your brand should speak to the type of person that you want to engage with. And I think a lot of times we don't do that. We don't put that much thought into it.
Well, and I had a realtor last week. She came up to me and said, "I want to pay you to manage my Facebook page." And I said, first of all, I have zero time for that. Second of all, if I wanted to do that, I could not do that because in order for me to effectively do that, I would need to follow you around everywhere you went because for it to be true to you, it's got to come from you.
Yeah.
It's got to be centered around you. It can't be cookie cutter content.
Man, I tell you what, I'm sitting here. I'm sorry I'm being a little quiet.
Scott looked at me a second ago and said, "Just let him talk. Let him talk. It's awesome.
Just let him go." I just cannot tell you how much I appreciate you being on this podcast today. I know you've got a million things to get done and starting a new career and climbing a new mountain. And if you could speak to the agency force that's out there that's listening to this, to the 250,000 agents that are listening to this right now, is there any parting thoughts that you'd like to say to them before we let you go today? And I want to once again, by the way, tell you how much we appreciate, how humbled I am that you'd be on the podcast with us.
Well, you're way too kind. This is my favorite thing, man. We get to talk with insurance dudes, and we get to rap and do our thing. This is fun. So, the parting message: don't believe any of the bullshit that we're going to be disintermediated, unless you're not taking the action to not be disintermediated, right? So, like, you have to do stuff. Like, you can't be stagnant and expect nothing to change. The world is going to change. It is changing. It has changed. It doesn't mean you have to be, on Instagram 24/7, everything new technology. Just take your time and put in the work and listen to this show and listen to the people who come on this show and figure out the things that are going to work for you. But if you're taking the action and moving forward, never, ever, ever let it enter your mind that we, the humans of this industry, are not the best option for solving insurance problems. We just need to find places in the pieces of technology that allow us to do our job with a little less friction.
I love it. I'm sitting here trying to think about Bold Penguin utilizing State Farm agencies by giving them a 1-800.
You're just obsessed with that, aren't you?
Well, giving them a 1-800 number, an individual ID 1-800 number that they can call to.
And by State Farm, you really just mean general captives. That's just your
yeah. I think it would work with any captive agency, force company type agents that don't write commercial. You know, some companies just don't specialize in commercial. So when people walk in and say, "Hey, I need a commercial insurance policy," they go, "I'm sorry, I'll have to give you I'll have to, let you call so and so down the street," kind of thing.
If you want to, if you're listening to this and you don't write commercial, but you get commercial opportunities in your office and you're looking for a way to monetize them, go to LinkedIn, Ryan Hanley, reach out to me, and we'll talk. And if it doesn't make sense, it's all good. But that's what we're going to take those opportunities. We're going to handle them well, and we're going to get them to someone who can make sure that customer is taken care of. That's what we do.
I love Ryan Hanley. Ryan, at some point in the not too distant future in my life, you and I are going to spend some time, and I look forward to it. I want to hear everything you've been doing since kindergarten. I want to get to know you on a personal level. Ryan, I'm going to go ahead and close this thing out, guys.
Yep.
As I always say, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk and quit aggressively waiting on the phone to ring. Go out into the big bad world today and sell insurance and make money for your family. Write good business for the agency that you represent. Write good business for the companies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Love you too, brother. Thanks, Ryan.
Happy birthday.
Thanks guys. Man. Thank you.
Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. We love all of you as well, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of The Insurance Guys. Take care.